Once you're ready, we'll call the meeting of the City of Tonawanda Council to order. Can you please call the roll?
Newman.
Here.
Cammerdiner.
Here.
Rautenstrau.
Here.
Mylum.
Here.
Cook.
Here. All right, let's go through the agenda. So tonight at 6:15, I see we have J.P. Gaines from Citizen Science Community Resources. She is here with us this evening. And at 6:30, we have Ben from Pyramid Brokerage. Is he joining us via Zoom, Jim? Do you know?
I believe he is coming to the meeting.
We have a representative from Pyramid Brokerage here. All right, let's go through the agenda. We have our bid openings as per the agenda. Minutes,
I'll take a minute, President.
Mr. Newman. Dave, did you get the slides to Jim to share?
Yeah, I think I did. I'll send them up. Thank you.
Jim, would you mind sharing the slides?
The agenda?
Yes, or just for those that are joining us virtually?
Sure.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, next is the special events application for Ted Reinhardt's Drum Day.
I'd like to take that, Mr. President.
Mr. Mylum?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna start with this.
Such a hands both in the air. All right, then next is the special events for the spokes bike rides.
I'd like to take that if I could, Madam President.
Mr. Rautenstrau. So Jim, Mr. Mylum has resolution 2. Mr. Rautenstrau has resolution 3.
I'm sorry, for resolution 2, is it Mylum or Rautenstrau?
Mr. Mylum.
Mylum, okay, got it.
And then resolution 3, Mr. Rautenstrau.
Got it.
Okay. All right, do we want to do council on this resolution relative to pyramid?
Sure. Yep.
All right, council on resolution 4. All right, resolution 5. On the discussion, I want to make a motion to table it. And what I'd like to do is bring in our chief and representatives who were in charge of drafting this RFP, coming to the council and having a discussion on it before we send it over for a financial review. So I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, President.
Second by Mr. Rautenstrau. All those in favor?
Aye.
How is the chief? Is anybody is it doing well?
Sure.
That covering as quick as we had hoped to. I just didn't hear any updates. Thank you.
For asking. All right. Next is the resolution for the city's request for proposal process. Basically, this streamlines our RFP process.
Madam
Mr.
President,
Rautenstrau?
I'd like to, I'd like to sponsor it.
Okay.
But I just wonder, and I want to kind of maybe ask the city attorney, Roa, if maybe we need to reword a little bit. I understand, you know, we want to have the control of it, but I just want to make sure it doesn't affect any kind of day-to-day stuff, anything with budget. You know, if the mayor's office needs to make an RFP out or approve an RFP to get funding for something that we've already budgeted for. I don't know if there's a better way to phrase that.
Well, the budget's a guideline, so if there's an RFP that has to go out, this it would then go through the common council to approve. So.
What, I'm just curious what prompted this resolution? Like, what was the thinking behind?
I think what prompted it,
All the issues with an RFP creating, you know, a concern. So I'm just curious what the backbone of this.
well, I think there was definitely some concern over how the RFP went through on the transport service. And we just wanted to make sure it comes through the council. It's something that is discussed, that we know what's getting put out there to be answered.
Okay. The fire department's RFP really didn't even need to be an RFP. It's not competitive bidding. We're not even spending any money. So it doesn't really even comply. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but it doesn't even comply with this particular situation. And the other thing is, a lot of our capitals that we would budget for typically would go through department heads for RFPs and we're down the chain. And anyway, that's how I was curious what really prompted this.
I'm not sure what your question is, Tom.
I was wondering what prompted the RFP, but
My main prompt is that I think that there's a need for it to come through the council. Make sure we're aware of it, we're in the loop of it. I think that was one occasion. I think there's been other occasions where RFPs have gone through us that we were completely unaware of until it got to the point of being approved.
I do think it is important that we streamline. this process.
aware I can see. I mean, approval, I mean, I'm just kind of navigating through that. I don't know. I understand where you're coming from. To a certain extent. Quite straightforward, to be honest. That's what it's like.
No, I'm just, Sean wanted some sort of an amendment, like an exception to the approval process. Is that what you're talking about, Sean?
Sure.
I mean, we had discussed that earlier, like with the grant resolution, where
Yes.
there was a certain dollar amount which would be exempt from getting prior approval. But we can redraft it. Yeah, we can put in an exception if you want.
I would probably it's written.
The original proposal, we had put approval by the council or the mayor, and that was asked to be revised, which we did.
Right.
I think we should leave it the way it's written.
And this just kind of puts it into words that the RFPs have to be at least shown
Brought to the council's attention.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, it makes it more of a policy rather than just a handshake. That's where I'm in favor of it, because I think, especially when we're charged with watching the money, you know, either it's competitive, non-competitive, there's always going to be some sort of money involved, you know, and I think having this in writing allows us to make sure that we see that and avoids.
I agree, but I don't believe the RFPs are spending the money unless it's an emergency situation, which by the procurement policy is valid. That we're not really blind. In most cases, again, fire department side, because it was not spending any money. So an RFP was more, you know, courtesy than anything else. It really wasn't even spending any money. So it doesn't cost us money.
But it is nice to know what's coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't think they left
One-sided.
anybody out of the loop. I'm pretty sure the mayor's office was notified that this was happening. So, you know, it wasn't really a blind side, but if you didn't pass on to the council, clearly I knew about it, but, you know,
The rest of it, I mean.
So the mayor just wanted to ask a question.
So how does this work whenever, you know, the council bonds for capital projects? And then we go out to bid? I mean, to me, that's not streamlining the process, that's adding another layer to. I have no problem sharing the RFP, but for items that, you know, that we bonded and things like that, to me, it's just adding a second step to a process that doesn't need to happen. I mean, reading this, it says that authorized by the common council prior to being issued.
Right.
I would say, you know,
Well, there's never been an RFP process. So now this establishes that this is going to be the policy, that there will be an RFP process and it will be authorized by the common council.
To address the mayor's point about, you know, bonding, he makes a good point, but I think the simple solution would be at the time you pass the bonding resolution to approve the issuance of RFPs, because you know about it, because you've approved the bonding. So I would agree with the mayor that when you pass the bonding resolution, approval of submitting RFPs for that purpose should be authorized.
And we can add another whereas in the resolution.
in the resolution as far as the bond.
Right?
But bidding is different than RFPs. So this establishes our policy so that the council is aware of RFPs that go out.
I mean, we could change this by one word. Take out approved. Must be reviewed by the county council.
I think it should still be approved as well. Should have a majority,
But if we're approving the budget,
but the budget's just a guideline. We have every authority to change the budget. I mean, look at what we've done during the pandemic. We've had to change the budget. It was just a guideline.
I think if you're going to look at the RFP as far as the spending guideline, you're gonna have to look into the procurement policy, which kind of spells out the RFPs between for competitive bidding with, you know, Department of Public Works in general. You know, it's 30 or 20 and 35,000 is your spending on those. So I think if you're going to go down this road, you're gonna have to probably incorporate it somehow with the procurement policy. Or it's just a separate resolution.
I don't disagree with that. And we've talked about that before. Jim, can you poll the council that they're in favor of the resolution as is written?
You just want me to poll the council?
Please.
Okay, Newman,
I think it needs work, so Nate.
I'm sorry, was that Nate?
Nate,
Thank you, Tom. Cameron,
Yes,
Rautenstrau,
Yes.
Milo,
yes,
Cook,
Aye. Anything else on it?
so we're having, Madam President, we're leaving the resolution as is then going forward.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right.
I think we do need to look at this more. I think we do need to look at that procurement, and kind of, maybe for next meeting, having a sister
to this.
resolution to this, that,
Political family, yeah.
that's sort of. This, like,
Hey, Jim,
like Mayor said, this standalone is gonna still make sense.
can you send the council the procurement policy for our review?
I'll put that, I'll email that to everyone.
Thank you. And you just copy the mayor and the city attorney too.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll shoot our ideas back and put them down for the next thing. All right, so next is the IT infrastructure. Now, IT is not my forte, so I'm going to defer to council members Armstrong and council members Mylum on this. But we did receive the notification from our city attorney to upgrade the IT infrastructure. Is Bill on?
Yeah.
Our city treasurer?
He's on there.
Yes,
Okay. So in a discussion with our city treasurer, we were able to allocate $7,000 from the contingency line. In addition, our city treasurer was going to talk to Scott Sheehan about his computer budget line to see if the difference can be used in that to supplement the remainder of the year. Did you have a chance to talk to Scott? To see
I've
what,
spoken with Scott. I mean, I thought I kind of left it that when you were trying to find, this is for the email server, correct?
correct.
I I thought we moved over enough to make it work for now, and we were gonna budget the rest next year.
Perfect, okay.
So what was I gonna ask Scott? I mean,
Okay.
he's aware of what we discussed and is
Perfect.
okay with it.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? Yes,
I still think, I'm still of tabling this and pushing it out until 2021. You know, we went back and forth over email. I know Mike made the suggestion that we should take care of it this year. He also kind of came back and said the sense of urgency, if it's something we take care of next year, and made a priority, would be fine. I just don't like the idea as we're moving forward, we continue to dip into these contingency funds. I mean, $7,000 is an immense amount of money, but it's money that could be used elsewhere. It could be money that, you know, we could be making up the difference with what we're short on the budget for Parks and Rec. I just feel like, I don't know if this meets the urgency of dipping into contingency funds for the year.
so the city attorney also reminded me that we did discuss this in late 2020, and we, as council, did agree to do this in 2021. So I don't necessarily know that, I mean, look, the bottom line is we're not in compliance, so we have to get in compliance.
Understandable, but excuse me, I'm sorry, the level of compliance that we're working towards it, we've gotten bids. We know what needs to be done, and we can place it as an urgency in the next year. We talked about it last year. It wasn't budgeted for this year. I just don't think it sets a bad precedence on everything else. It's something that hasn't been budgeted for. I understand it's important. I think we need to red flag it and make it an important thing to take care of. for
But I
next
mean,
year.
how much longer? We were notified we were in compliance in November of 2020. I worked with the city treasurer to be able to find the money so we can.
But we're finding money from a contingency line. It wasn't budgeted for 2020. And that's where I take issue with
We
it.
also, but we have opportunities in the computer line to take from as well. However, and we have plenty of money on that line for the city treasurer. So the city treasurer, the city clerk, and I spoke about this on Friday. After I spoke to the city attorney, that said, just by way of a reminder, we did say we were going to do this in 2021. So I don't necessarily think that we should continue to keep delaying this for next year.
I understand
We have to
everything you're
get it
saying.
done.
And I'm an IT person. I'm a strong proponent of IT infrastructure and doing upgrades. I just think we've continued to spend money that wasn't budgeted this year. And my suggestion is we hold it off until the first thing of next year and budget it in next year's and put it in next year's budget.
To me, it's a compliance. It's something that we need to do. We know we need to do it. And in the event that open government comes back at us and we get fined for not being in compliance, I don't want to be sitting up here saying, you know what, we're going to do it in 2022.
Is this upgrade a security measure?
Yes.
No, I don't believe it. My understanding of what this is the migration of our data to a cloud server for an Office 365 base. I believe it's sitting internally. I believe it's still here in archivable. So this is for the licensing, the labor, and the time through professional services to move this data into the new server, into a new cloud exchange server. It's here, it's sitting here, it's accessible. This puts in more guidelines, more ability to set quotas, to set archiving, which for the most part would be invisible to the user. Just continue to go add to the quota, stay archived out there. It also runs into the urgency of the archival. Is it readily available like some things are? Is it something that's available on demand or available within a couple of days? And this puts it into an archive basis where it's available all the time. Yeah, well, I think it's within a reasonable amount of time. The storage and space it would take to store it on demand immediately can be pretty monumental. I think it is urgent. I think it's important. I think it's something that needs to be done. I just don't, again, I don't think that a delay, knowing that we're doing our due diligence, that we're doing it in process, that it's going to be an urgent thing that we're going to budget for first thing next year.
We did do our due diligence and we received the proposal And who knows how long the proposal is good for, from 2022, it may increase.
So the price of managed services are pretty consistent. The price, the licensing is government licensing for Microsoft products. That hasn't changed in years and years and years. When I spoke to Scott, he was pretty sure that the pricing, the managed services pricing would be the same through next year. I haven't seen it change in years with any of my contracts at my work.
The bottom line is we're not in compliance and we're subject to fines and fees.
Yeah, how much are these fees and fines and stuff? If we aren't.
Thousands of dollars.
Is it more than $8,000?
I don't want to take that risk.
Yeah,
I'm kind of looking for a definitive answer. I understand it's fines, but I mean, will we be fined if it's already in the process and it's being worked on and we have a plan ahead? I'm just stating my concerns and my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, my position is we have correspondence from the city attorney from November of 2020, and we need to act on it.
What's in the computer line?
What's that?
How much is in the computer line?
Bill, how much is in the computer line?
Give me a chance to look at the budget, I guess. I mean, again, Scott sets up projects, things come. Last year, they had some large projects that they still had money at the end of the year, but COVID caused a lot of problems with having to purchase machines. So things happen. So in the computer line, the council budgeted 42 overall. And I believe the last time I checked, I think there was about 25, but let me just report the current.
25,000?
That's what I'm thinking is, there, I mean, again, we use that for a lot of purposes. So I have it up in front of me here. Let me just pull down to it. Okay, come on.
I'd rather see it come from the computer line
yeah, I would too.
because we're gonna be short.
But that's, again, Scott has that drawn out. So if we can get Scott on, if you want to talk to him about that, if that's where you'd rather have it come from. Again, he has a list of projects he kind of knows, and that's kind of goes back to where, you know, where do you value the projects? What do you want to see done? So we have 24/3 and the computer, there's a lot of monthly costs. So it's not like we have 24,000 sitting there. And that's our cost of some of the data stuff and any machines we need to pick up, and that's covers a lot of the police work. So it can come out of there. I'm just saying, be ready. And like I said, I tried to have Scott reach out to the council about that. That was more of my caution. I wasn't saying that I wanted it from there. I was saying we need to have you guys talk with Scott and find out what his priorities are and see where if yours match, I guess. In the end, it's your call on what you want to do.
So is council comfortable with 4,300 from the computer line and then 2,716 from contingency?
It's a computer service.
Yeah, it should come right out of the computer service line.
I think, you know, if this is number one priority, something else.
That can be set, yeah.
Okay, so we'll amend this resolution to take it from the computer line. Do you have that line, Bill?
Sure. 1620, it's for the budget. Let me just get it back up again here.
Everybody goes now?
And again, yeah, there's other places as the year moves along, so just be ready. I don't imagine. So it's 1620-0203.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, so is the council all on board? $7,016 from the computer line?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 8. I'd like to make a motion to table this for further discussion.
I will second that motion, Madam President.
And I defer to our engineer. We'll get a report from him for a possible All right. Don't have executive. There's no executive. All right, I apologize, I'm a little behind schedule.
Excuse me, Madam President, for
Yeah.
the motion to table, Resolution 8, that's by you, seconded by
Mr. Newman.
Councilmember Newman.
Mr. Newman.
Okay. And everyone's in favor of that?
Yes, aye.
Thank you.
All right. Vicki James, welcome. Hi. How are you? Feel pretty good. How are you guys? Good. I just want to make sure that the microphone picks up your comments. Jim, can you hear Jackie from?
Can I move up there?
Absolutely. No, don't move that. No.
Oh, I'm not supposed to sit on. I
You
can sit
got
on
it.
here, I guess, right?
You
Is
got it.
that the microphone? All right, so here I am.
All right, thanks so much for joining us. So we did receive an email from the mayor's office about 5-6 weeks ago, saying that he had met with you. We did not have the proposal at the time that we received the email. An email from the mayor that said that, and I don't have his email in print, but there was a discussion about $50,000 and was the city on board? So then we received this proposal and we wanted to invite you to kind of come talk to the council. Okay. So the floor is yours.
Oh, okay, as I understood, I would have questions, so, but that's fine. So yes, I met with the mayor, I guess it was a couple months ago, right before this proposal was due, and I had some misinformation. So when I wrote that original letter, I thought that the match had to be a 1-to-1 match. So the total project is a $500,000 project. We applied for 250,000. So at the time I met with the mayor, I thought, oh gosh, we have to somehow get them back to 250,000. And it actually was in that meeting with the mayor, he's like, no, Jackie, I think you misread that. And then we went back and sure enough, we misread it and that was a good thing. However, they do require matches. At this point, we do have a couple of partners. We have the town of Tonawanda that's committed $50,000 over 2 years, starting next year. So $25,000 a year for 2 years. And we also have the new owner of the property, Mr. John Williams, committed to all of the cleanup. So what this project entails, basically, it's called Healthy Soils, Healthy Gardening, Healthy Communities. And our forte is community-based citizen science. So we take these tools and teach folks how to use them to collect data. In this specific project, it would be empowering folks to use our kit to collect soil samples in their gardens, in children's play areas, mainly where people can be exposed to potential environmental toxins that came from Tonawanda Cove. And we test the data, we test that sample. If 90% of the time it comes back fine, and then everybody has peace of mind. Children can play in the soil, we can garden, right? But sometimes we may find something. But the wonderful thing of this is that we have somebody that has experience in cleaning up and mitigating soil coming in and saying, I'll clean it up. So that's the first year. The second year of the project is working with garden groups, community garden groups, and distributing seedlings. So the whole idea is we want to move past the environment, the legacy of our industry in the Tonawandas, and the city of Tonawanda has been the brunt because city of Tonawanda has been downwind of all the town's industry, right? So the whole idea is to start anew, clean it up, empower citizens to dig up their own dirt, have it tested, right? And start anew. So it's a new beginning. It's a fresh start. And that's what seedlings represent. They represent hope and a new start. And our communities have been impacted not only by Tonawanda and this environmental legacy, but then we were hit by COVID as well. And gardening, I don't know if you're familiar, like gardening is huge right now. And it's so therapeutic. I mean, it's just win-win-win, you know? Our expertise is not gardening. So that's why we're gonna partner with the garden groups. So obviously I'm very excited about this idea.
I just have
And
one point.
we're looking for partnerships. So, you know, City of Tonawanda has always been a partner with us. And I'm just really hoping you guys support this.
I have two questions. So you said that the town of Tonawanda has committed 50,000
Correct,
starting in 2022. Is that
correct.
correct? And then 2023 would be the second
Yes.
half.
Mhm.
And then just for clarification, so I get one of these sample kits, I take it to my house, I dig it up, and it turns out that it's contaminated. What's the process after that? Was it that somebody was gonna come in and clean that up?
Somebody's gonna come in and clean it up. Yeah. Mhm.
And any cost to the resident?
Nope.
Wow, okay, thank you. That's really great.
Now, I have a question. The fines that were imposed, in the settlement that Tonawanda Code was required to pay, are any of those monies used in this venture?
Well, that's a good question because all those monies went to University of Buffalo.
Right.
And we have another issue brewing with them, but I promised my board that I wouldn't get into that. I will be coming back to all of you soon about another issue, and the mayor is very familiar with that. But I didn't want to complicate tonight with that other issue. I just sort of wanted to hone in on this.
So I guess my follow-up question would then be the settlement that Tonawanda Code, I guess then the monies that went to UB, is UB offering a similar service?
No,
Okay.
Has there been much testing done in the city already? Here?
UB has done testing.
Okay.
And we did back in 2012 and 2013, and the mayor, we actually tested, sorry, I did all the information that we were supposed to. I'm not supposed to do that, sorry.
They tested myself.
All right,
There, I
yes,
said it.
yeah. We did a pilot, like we tested some people's backyards, about 20, maybe 30, 20 to 30.
And can you divulge what the, like a representative average of what came back from those 20 was?
Yeah, so we found some contamination in some backyards, yes. And mainly it was neighborhoods there's a neighborhood that's very close to Tonawanda Cove. It's actually in the town that we're concerned about. We're actually going to be doing some work there this summer because it's very good. Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty concerning.
So you're looking for a commitment of?
We're looking
how much
for a commitment.
from the city?
We've left it open-ended. If you want to range of scale, I mean, we did put in the letter, the town is committed $50,000, but you guys are about 1/5 that size, so I don't know, divide that by 5, I don't know if that's an approximate. Obviously, we'd accept more. But for a guideline.
And when do you need a response time?
So we would need a response, well, the sooner the better, because next on our agenda is to do the same thing at Grand Island at their town board meeting. So whenever the next town board meeting is, I would say within the next 2 weeks.
Anything else?
Would it be the same setup where you could start in 22 and go to 23?
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, we'll be in
Thanks,
touch.
Jackie.
All right, I have some additional handouts too, specifically about the project. They're not so intensive, because I sent you the whole grant application. Which is like,
Thank you.
actually, do you need any more of
I need
those?
one more. I was just gonna take a picture.
We might need one for the clerk.
I'll take a picture of this.
No, I can take mine.
We can give one to them.
Jim, I have a copy for you.
Thank you.
All set?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Good to see you.
All right, next up. Ben, come on up. Thanks so much for joining us. Sorry we're a few minutes late.
Fine. How's everyone?
Good, nice to see you.
How are you? Nice to see you, Mayor.
So just so you know, we are also streaming this council meeting virtually.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure the residents are able to pick up, your voice. Jim, can you hear Ben?
Yes, I can hear Ben.
Hello, Jim.
I'm good.
So, Rich Schechter, my partner in crime, we're working on the account together. Apologizes for not being able to make it, but he had a conflict. He's on several boards. He had a big one today. Sorry about that.
Understandable.
So I can tell you that we're continuing with our efforts over at Spalding. And I can tell you that the market is very much a seller's market. There's limited supply, very limited supply of industrial property, primarily existing buildings, which is forcing people to look at construction more. Fortunately, construction costs are rising, and we're coming out of a pandemic, which has kind of slowed the market a little bit from the development, but the activity has been, I would say, brisk coming out of the winter. And probably the last 2 or 3 months, we've seen an uptick in activity over there. I know we have a couple of proposals in front of the city now, and we probably have 3 to 6, I would say, other parties that are gearing up to make proposals for the remaining land. So what we have left after the sale of 20 acres to Milton Cat is about 18 acres of land. 2 acres enough is how we're targeting it. Feel pretty confident now that we have that showpiece of a facility up there that, and the market being what it is, that will be successful, including our efforts. A little longer than we anticipated, but I think we're, yeah. We'll open the questions if anybody has them.
You said there's potentially between 4 and 6 people interested. Is that?
Yeah, we have 2 proposals in front of the city now. In addition to that, I should mention that Simmers Crane, which was the initial deal that we did, there was an offer received for the Simmers Crane parcel next to it, which they had a right of first refusal, about 1.5 acres. They have exercised their right of first refusal. We're waiting for a contract from the city. And their plans are to add a significant addition. Probably not, maybe this fall, maybe the plan, could go into this fall. But they're looking at that correct. But to answer your question, 2 in, and probably between Rich and I, we did be about, I'll say anywhere from 3 to 5. Couple right on the cusp of possibly. Good news.
Very good news.
Anything else for her?
We're excited. We appreciate the opportunity. It took a little bit longer. I remember sitting with the mayor in his office. I said, this will be a piece of cake. It didn't turn out to be that way. There were some challenges to the site, the rail crossing, probably number one. The residents in close proximity was probably number two. But now that Milton Cat is up, people are always hesitant to be the first one in. They're building a beautiful facility out there. You should be very proud of that. I know we are proud of seeing it go up. They're doing a bang up job.
There. Thanks so much for your hard work.
And are you guys looking to do a 1-year agreement? Is that what you're looking to do?
We would like to extend it for a year. We've been doing it here. Good thing about our agreement is we don't get paid unless we perform.
Exactly.
Anything else?
I do have some updated wires. Shows the remaining land and the Milton Cat facility.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Okay, great.
We haven't received a report in a while, right? We haven't received a report from them in a while on the
So
status.
when, we haven't received a monthly report in a while.
Yeah, we stopped doing that because Milton was talking about buying the remaining land and then we hit COVID and winter. But we can continue that if that's.
Yes, if we can continue those.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay. You got it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go around the room. Your new minute.
Then we had some plumbing inspector issues, trying to fill that position. A challenge. I did reach out to Bill Conrad. Talked to him again this evening. He was actually on the assembly floor when he called me back. But he's looking at some things, looking at the and such to see if, if the verbiage is how we think it is. And it's likely gonna probably go to legislation to make some changes to that state law, just making it very restrictive. And I feel like we're not the only municipality in the state that's having the same issue, so. So that's really all I have to think about, President.
See what changes.
Well, it has to do with the plumber, or the inspector being a plumber, most likely. So that's really the issue factor.
Right.
It's kind of silly, the way it is, but
Right.
it's the way it is. So you just gotta address it and move forward.
Did you talk about a timeline?
He was literally, it was a very quick conversation, like,
Yeah.
I only texted him just to, get a quick response when he calls me back, he's on the floor, and I'm like, okay. So he's gonna get back to me again, and we're gonna see where we're gonna go with it.
Okay.
I feel like it's probably gonna go to legislation. I'm hoping they can draft the bill this year. You only have until about June, I think it's June 1st, so it have to be quick to get on the floor this year. Unless you have an emergency thing, but I'll see what happens.
Thanks for the update.
All right, so just a couple of things, guys. Traffic and safety met. I did bring up all of the concerns that were emailed to me. So as soon as, because neither one of you have heard anything about the potential petition, correct?
No.
Wheeler?
No, and I'm gonna speak to her tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be brought to them first. So
Yep.
they're aware,
Yep,
and then we'll go from there.
perfect.
But just to let everybody know, the issue is when you're turning from Moyle or any of those streets that are kind of between Gibson and Wheeler. On Wheeler, they allow two sides of the street park. And it's become a safety issue to make a turn from any of those pass-through streets because everybody's trying to cram in front of their house to park. So the issue is we want to try to just make parking one side of the street on Wheeler, like they do on Gibson. And there's a couple other, I can't think off the top of my head, but I know there's a couple other streets that only allow parking on one side.
Okay.
And it really wouldn't have to be the entire street. It would just have to be in that section.
That section,
between,
okay.
like Fletcher and what's the last one, is it Prospect or Moyle? those 5 or 6 streets. Prospect, yeah.
Concrete food Cranbrook in that scenario, because I've had complaints I've brought before about the same scenario. School buses and parking on both sides of that goofy.
On that little section going
Yeah.
forth, okay.
And what's happening too, and I'm sure you've heard the same thing on Cranbrook, is when the cars are parked on both sides of the street, there isn't enough room for 2 cars to
To
pass
go
by.
through, right,
And the resident complaint was that they're so packed in, the cars on the street, that you're having to wait. If you see a car 2 or 3 blocks down, you're having to pull over and wait for them to come. And then traffic is back. So the feeling is, I don't know, we may have to flip a coin between 3rd Ward and 4th Ward on one side of the street. But
About alternate parking.
alternate parking, one side of the street have restricted or no parking during.
okay. All right.
When's the next traffic and safety board?
We meet on the 24th, so I will bring that up to them again. Hopefully we'll get something from the resident in regards to that.
24th.
Yep,
What time?
we meet at 6 o'clock here.
So I wanted to come up.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other thing that came up during that traffic and safety, and I know we've all discussed this before, is the CSX crossing.
That was one of them, yeah.
The city doesn't own that particular section that they want to put a sidewalk on. So we can reach out to CSX. However, Jason LaMonaco sent me an email today with guidelines from CSX. I haven't had a chance to fully read it and understand it. We can go to them and ask them to do that, but there's a cost then to the city to put that in. CSX won't just put it in there. So as soon as I can share it with you guys so that you can read it, and then if you got questions, maybe we could brainstorm together and come up with, because it is definitely a concern for me. And I only say that, I know that I've had conversations with a couple of residents in regards to that problem. And it's only gonna get worse now that Milton Cat is there, right? I mean, they're gonna have more traffic coming in and out of there. People are walking, riding. Now we're sending our children to Fletcher next year. And kids still, believe it or not, ride bikes, which is great. So we want to make it safe for them to cross over, and we just need to do something safe for these kids, knowing that, you know, if it was your kids, my kids walking or riding a bike, I want to make sure that they're safe.
I think it should be discussed that there's a crossing guard there.
And that's something that we could do with the school. Yeah. So that might be an option too, right? Because at one point they had crossing guards, if I'm not mistaken. There was one on Delaware. There was one on Maine, right? Right there by the pool place now to walk the kids across.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I think that's, I was trying to remember. Yeah, I was trying to remember when my son went there. I think that there was.
I don't know if they'll put crossing guards into where that's outside of the walk distance.
It's something to consider.
Well, yeah, and the problem is, right now you're gonna take Mullen away and you're taking Riverview away.
Yeah.
So the most important, I mean, and not that the kids aren't important at Riverview, but you got kids that potentially are going to be coming from Millstream walking, right? And you gotta make sure that these kids are gonna be safe crossing these streets. Delaware in the morning is a nightmare. You got Roosevelt, which is another, you know, racetrack going through there. So I mean, we got to come up with some sort of idea to move it forward to make it safe for them. Well, no,
You want to reach out to Dr. First about that?
yeah, because maybe we can brainstorm with them and come up with an idea.
Reach out to you too, and then traffic and safety. Be-
Yeah. That would be perfect. Mr. Casso, do you know if we sent notification to the DPW regarding the sign being moved on Canton?
DPW is aware of the
Okay.
change of the ordinance.
Okay, that was on my list to make sure too. All right,
For one more traffic and safety thing.
Yep.
I think we talked about it in passing, but it was suggested I had a couple calls about it. I think we passed it along to traffic and safety, but the part of Adams Street near Old Man River, Mississippi muds, I guess there's definitely been some congestion. I had a couple of residents suggested that, they see people coming out of Old Man River going the wrong way. People backing up down Adams Street with the traffic that they're not paying attention or not seeing it's a one-way street. So it was suggested to maybe have a little bit of better signage, especially in that area, so you're not turning back down Adams Street from Old Man River, and possibly arrows on the road in front of the.
Correct. So that was brought up at traffic and safety as well. The suggestion was to reach out to the DPW, so when they get ready to stripe the roads for the season, to possibly put something on the road stating that it is a one-way street. Because even though you have signs up there, again, people aren't reading those signs and they're just going down those streets. Or they're down those streets and they decide they want something 2 houses back and they turn around in somebody's driveway and go the opposite direction. So, we definitely need to put something down, but we did talk about that. So I'll reach out to Joe and see what we can do when they do the striping as far as that goes, to put something down, okay? The other thing, so the mayor and I had a meeting via Zoom with Senator Ryan in regards to the CSX bridge. So my understanding is, in order to do anything in that section, we would have to go for a grant. So it would be 80 federal, 15 state, and a 5% city match. Now they would have to do a engineer study. So that engineer study would come out of the 5% for the city's match. However, I'm waiting to get the actual cost. I did email them and they haven't received it yet either from Hal from the Greater Buffalo Niagara Regional Transportation Council. So as soon as he gets that to me, possibly to the mayor, we'll share that so that we all have a cost standpoint to move forward with that. We definitely have to come up with something. They had at one point mentioned that maybe there was too much signage, maybe, and I believe that we did put the signs up so that these rigs knew that you couldn't go under that bridge. So then what do? They get stuck, they back up, they go down State Street, which is another disaster, but at least it gets them to Delaware. I know that we've put signs up. I believe it's over by Cranbrook as well, which again, we were having issues with tractor trailers going down by Mullen.
Has it been hit recently?
No, thank God. I wanted to touch brief, just a little thing on discussion for Kohler Pool. I'm probably going to take up all of my time, but I'm sorry. So we need to discuss, I know Mandy had sent us all an email of what she needs funding wise to open Kohler Pool. However, I did research and I know what we have in our contingency fund, and she's about $6,400 short to do that. So is this something that we want to go back to her and say, you need to refigure this to bring the cost down? I don't know where we're going to get $6,400 out of our budget. If we pull from that contingency fund, it'll be completely depleted then. I don't know. Is this something that we want to put back onto Mandy and say, you got to come up with a plan and show it to the council, less $6,400?
Yeah, I think part of the problem is we want to get it open,
Right.
And, that was part of the budget at the time that we put into contingency. And my concern is just as I speak to the,
For the IT. Mhm.
IT infrastructure. And continue to deplete these contingency plans and take away from the budget that was already proposed. We dipped into it for the volunteers. We dipped into it for a couple other things too. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I mean, it has been depleted. And I think we owe it to them to find where this money's coming from. It's something we kind of committed to. We talked about putting it in contingency so we can think about it when the time comes. I do think, she has the onus to do what she can on it. She did a great job last year with making the cuts that were needed,
Right.
but yeah, I think getting back to a sense of normalcy in the city is of a high importance. So it's important to find that funding.
I think we gotta find the money.
Right. I mean, we got to get Kohler Pool opening, for these kids. But we just have to come up with,
That might be the solution too, is reduced hours or.
right.
Bill?
I don't know what the number would be, that's something she has to put together.
Yeah, I'm sure it would probably come out of labor. I mean, the other issue is, I don't know if you guys have seen the warning signs for the national shortage on chlorine.
Chlorine.
And, exorbitant costs.
I already bought mine.
So did I. Got my year supply already.
I got you covered.
You know, some estimates are that the cost is doubled or tripled, so.
Right.
uh,
So that's the other thing,
Consideration that we have to be prepared for.
I'm saying mine pretty much doubled
I have a-
what I paid last year.
No questions for the city treasurer. Bill, is
I'm listening. I'm just waiting for everyone to stop. What's up?
okay, is there an opportunity to utilize 6,400 from the federal stimulus money that we're set to receive?
Honestly, if we get it, I'm hoping to get the rules with them. I would think that if it's tourism and infrastructure and other things, it might be. But again, I'm not, if and when it comes, that's going to be up to the council and the mayor to figure out where it gets spent. I'm more concerned. I thought, we originally pulled a lot of the salaries and put that into a contingency fund. But there were a lot of hard cuts that Mandy mentioned at the last meeting that were actually cuts to the budget. Like art supplies and little things like that. And that's why when I was asked, I thought we actually had to find closer to 20 to get back to where the original mayor's budget was. But again, if we get the federal stimulus money, I'm hoping that they send the rules with the money. I've heard there's been changes. It's really hard to really, bank on that. But right now you still have some funding in the council COVID contingency that was the pool money that got moved over there. So that would be a start. And if there was no money after, you can always close the pool early, if that's how you want to do that.
So do we want to have Dawn take that back and say we're 6,400 short? What do you intend on?
Okay.
All right. Perfect. Okay.
All right, so we did that. So just a couple of things real quick too, because I just got to get this off my chest.
Okay, but
So-
hold on, hold that thought.
Okay.
I have a question for our city attorney.
Yep.
Now, given the fact that it's 7 o'clock, do I have to stop this discussion and we go into formal and then we have to continue? We did advertise that at 7 o'clock.
No, people are turned in, so they know what's going on, and we also have the audience here, and they know what's going on. So we can finish your informal session and proceed.
And formal, okay, perfect.
The notice is only so people don't miss the formal session.
Perfect.
You can't start it early once you advertise it at 7, but you can start it late.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dawn.
That's okay. So a couple of things. Mayor, this is probably more directed to you or to the treasurer. So the city supposedly received $50,000 from 2020 from the urban initiative funding from Mr. Hardwick. Do we know if we actually received that money? Are we still waiting on that?
That would be a question for our city treasurer.
Mr. Reese?
Did he quit?
If you're muted, we can't hear you.
Maybe he did.
Mr. Reese,
And come back to that.
if you just want to send him an email and.
Yeah, I'll send him an email on that. The other thing is you guys are all aware that the LDC had some resignations. effective the 27th of April and the 30th of April. Now, I've struggled with this since I found out that we've had some well-known city residents resign from this board. This LDC was never meant to be governed by the city. It was all, my understanding, it was all supposed to be done by a community-based event. However, since I've been on the board 2018, I can tell you that it seems like it has been more governed than it was a community-based. Hate me, love me, but I struggle with this because it comes out of the mayor's office, and his assistant has consistently lied, not only to me. When I do question him on it, he sits there and gets a little annoyed. So I'm calling him out on it. You know, you sent an email, you spoke to somebody. Don't pass misinformation without contacting me. I don't like being called a liar. I am not a liar by any means, and I take it to heart. I took this position by the city of residents, you know, knowing that I do this job with my heart. I don't do fast and loose. I don't, you know, I try to play by the rules. If I don't understand it, then I try to track it down. With that being said, so the LDC, I think at this point needs to be put on the back burner until it can be reconfigured. Currently, there are 4 members. There's some bylaws that I'm a little confused about, and I'm going to reach out to the city mayor, or to the city attorney, just to get some clarifications moving forward, because some of the verbiage that is in this particular one isn't directed in one certain way, so it could be open to interpretation a couple of different ways. So the board currently has 4 members. However, this particular board currently has no secretary, no treasurer. So it's very difficult to move forward not knowing a direction. You plan meetings, you say you're going to be at meetings, you don't show up, that aggravates me. Since 2018, I can tell you people, I have never missed any of these meetings without calling somebody to tell them that I just couldn't make it. It bothers me, number one. You know, the LDC runs off of funds that the city has put into budget. You know, 20 and 21, we've given them probably about $90,000. In 2019, the city paid all of the expenses for the LDC. 2020, that LDC kind of went out on its own and had asked for funding from the city to move forward with it. You know, that money was used for, or was supposed to be used for, administrative fees, insurance, office space, operating cost, which would consist of mailboxes, phones, mailings, right? They still have all of that money. So coming out of the mayor's office, you know, I want us to work together to put this LDC in the right direction moving forward is my goal. I can't do it alone, and I've tried. You know, it should never be about politics, and that's kind of what bothers me with this. That's all I have to say.
Can I ask for some clarification?
Mhm.
You said that they have approximately $90,000 in their treasury.
Currently, they have about 105. Mhm.
They're 501c3, right?
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was to be used for what you had mentioned, but also for things like small business loans.
Well, they were trying, so here's the problem. They were trying to get these programs up and running.
Right.
But when you go to meetings and you don't have board members don't show up, it's a little difficult to have, you know, let's say the same 7 people constantly at these meetings and nothing moves forward.
So they have no secretary currently,
Currently, no, as of April 30th.
no treasurer.
No.
So there's nobody to manage this
Correct.
immense sum of money. Has the money for this year's budget been transferred over yet?
It has. So
Here we are arguing over $5,000, $6,000.
exactly.
To open a pool that benefits everybody. This has this sum of money sitting in it that we could use for computer upgrades. We could open the pool. And so
However, my understanding is, and, you know, we can ask legal advice. I don't believe that, let's say the city goes back and takes that money has to go into a fund. Right? It can't be used for anything other than, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying
Right.
to say we should transfer that into our
No.
operating funds, but that's a heck of a lot of money to be dumping into an organization that's not done a thing with it.
Well, again, you got to keep in mind, they didn't have a direction, right?
That's what I
I
mean.
mean, I was at every meeting. And again, there's some information that has never been clarified as far as voting members. So when you don't have who you think should be there, it makes it a little difficult.
Because this was born out of the Main Street program.
It was,
And that was
correct.
originally a grant.
That was a grant that had come through that they had gone to, yes.
That was about, say, 5 years
So
ago.
probably 2017, maybe before that.
I think we spent like 300,000 with consulting, didn't we, rather than we?
Yes. there was-
Yeah. Yep,
So you said there were 4 members.
correct.
None of them are serve on the board, right?
We are board members, but none of us have any board responsibilities.
So something must have transpired, you know, with recent meetings. Have we had any interest in new board members coming to serve?
We have, however, the 3 new members decided to walk once they realized that they needed to sign a conflict of interest. And that states, obviously, if you are a builder, banker, you would have to excuse yourself from any dealings with that particular group. Let's say somebody was to go into Main Street and want to buy a building, right? You know that. It would becoming an ethic problem if you went in and you said, hey, I got word that, you know, this building is going up, and you don't want to do that. So you have to sign this conflict of interest form, which has always been there. And the new members that came, and unfortunately, I felt really bad for them because the letters of resignation, which I did forward to all of you, were read. And they were blindsided, to say the least. That, you know, they came into this board. I had the bylaws printed, put together for them with a conflict of interest, but they didn't get them until they were coming in that particular night. So when they were sitting there and these letters were written or read, I should say, they were like in awe. And I felt so bad for them. And they walked. And quite honestly, if I would have been in their shoes, I probably would have done the same thing.
Well,
You wouldn't want to open yourself up to it.
Right.
I mean, back in 2014 and 15, when the LDC started up and running, I was always under the impression that it was community driven, government supported.
Correct.
That was always our position. And I've had a chance to review the bylaws from 2017. Now, prior to 2017, I was under the impression that the council appointed 1 member.
Mhm.
It's now Utah. And the mayor also had an appointment.
Correct.
But those 2 entities didn't have voting power. So obviously something must have changed between 2014 to 2017.
But however, if you read the bylaws, see, this is where the problem comes in. It does not state that.
Specify that.
Correct.
But here's what we can control. And we received an email yesterday asking the council to consider authorizing another $100,000 to the LDC from the Urban Initiative Grant from your town. And until there's a board and a board of directors with voting, I say right now, we don't support sending any money until we get this figured out.
Right. I mean, I don't think the city should be putting some money into something that, We're
that
still
money be
working
put
on it.
into a trust and agency until the time at which the board is.
Well, I think what we should do is, we should have our city clerk reach out to, Mr. Hardwick and invite him to an upcoming meeting so we can talk about this urban initiative. Because it's, I believe, the council's position that council controls the money, council controls the spend. We shouldn't be dictated on where we spend money and what we spend money on. That's our job. So we're not gonna be told that we have to spend $100,000 to a development corporation that unfortunately we have to mend some relationships and put a plea out to the public and the community that this corporation is a 501c3. It's government supported but community driven. So any resident that wants to sit on the LDC, there's an application process, as I understand.
There is.
And there's the 4 members can certainly.
Because you only need 3 and we have 4.
So, Dawn, I appreciate your efforts on this. I know this is a huge undertaking and, you know, I think we have to work with the mayor's office and city attorney and the consultant to do what we can to.
Because I wanted to move forward, right? We were moving in the good direction down there.
Is Jason staying with us?
Currently, yes.
That's a positive.
But keep in mind, he's only got until the end of June and then he can rethink his contract. So,
Now,
but, nope,
now, Bill, I will defer to you, given the fact that they're a 501c3, similar to what we did to the volunteer fire, how do we assess the financial reports? Are those available online?
they're through the Paris report.
It's called the Paris report?
Yeah,
So those reports are available online?
they are,
And they have to be filed?
every year by them.
Annually?
Yes.
PARIS.
PARIS, yes.
Okay, so I think that we have to take a look at it. Is everybody in favor of asking Mr. Hardwick to come to an upcoming meeting, or if by chance we can have a discussion with them regarding this urban initiative funding? Okay.
Yeah, because I guess my concern is, you know, if it's not supposed to be a government-run LDC, then the LDC, then the mayor's office, for lack of better terms, should not be telling that LDC how to spend the money. They can suggest, but they shouldn't be saying, hey, you know, you got to spend the money here. You got to, you know, put the money over here.
My understanding was that they were chiming in at any time. When this first rolled out, I mean, agendas don't come from our council liaison or don't come from the mayor's appointee.
Right.
The board actually sets the agenda.
Correct.
We support the LDC, we support their mission. Yes, we have allocated funds annually in our budget to get them up and running, but in no way, shape, or form do we influence how they spend the money. We have no say in it.
Right. I mean, it was nice to work with them, right? Because I mean, the director prior to the current one was helping the city get grants. And I think that was the original intent from that LDC, if I'm not mistaken, to have that, them work hand in hand with the city, but not necessarily be told how to spend the money.
There was a dedicated grant writer, if I'm not mistaken.
There was. So I just wanted you guys to all be on board and you understood, you know, why I've kind of reached out and just said, listen, you know, the LDC.
So I just want to comment. You can't sit here and complain. I'm the one that has done the most like for penalties. I'm the one that me and Charlie Rex started it.
Correct, you did.
You and Chuck should never have been voting members. You guys should have been liaisons. So that takes the government out of it. But then you're sitting up here and saying, well, they're looking for direction. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you want a community-based LDC and hands-off government, but then complain that we're not at meetings, or if we're saying we're gonna give you the money, but we want to see a micro loan program for businesses. You can't have it both ways.
And I get that, Mayor, and I,
You really, no, I don't think you do. And this is what irritates me, is that this is supposed to be community-based, but it's not open to anybody in the city to serve on. You have to bring something to the table.
correct.
You have to have development experience, you have to have banking experience, you have to have something. This is not just a board to sit on to say, I'm a member of the LDC. So we had 3 solid people that were ready to step forward, and they got blindsided at the meeting, and they walked away. 2 of them had development experience, 1 of them was a banker. And after they saw that, for lack of a better term, and I'm sorry, that shit show, they didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Well, and
So,
again, your assistant was supposed to be at the meeting.
but again.
But no, Rick,
so
let me
the
finish.
direction- So the direction, so it's either a non-government entity or it's a government entity, and we're providing direction. I don't want there to be any direction from us.
All right, first of all.
Okay.
First of all, we're gonna have a civil discussion. If you can't have a civil discussion about this, then we'll go into executive session. But the bottom line is, the LDC is community driven, government supported. And it's a shame that we had members in our community, well-respected members of our community, resign. So before we continue with an LDC, we obviously have to get our house in order and review the mission and the bylaws and review what the intent is.
Correct.
This corporation has all the potential in the world. And you know what? I'm not gonna see it sink. So if our council liaison and the mayor have to get together and cooler heads have to prevail, so be it. But in the meantime, we're not going to be dictated on where we spend money. So Mr. Casso, please reach out to Mr. Hardwick so the council can have a meeting regarding the urban initiative and the $100,000 that he wishes us to allocate towards the LGC. And Dawn, is there a future meeting? Where are we at?
I couldn't even begin to tell you. So the current members, again, are myself, Mr. Gilbert, and we have Mr. Foles, and we have Mr. Hogenkamp. So we need to, I guess, come up with a time. I did meet with the mayor last Friday and was informed that we could send all of the necessary paperwork and have it dropped off here at City Hall to his attention, meaning all of the secretarial notes. We cannot hand over a treasurer's report. So I was going to reach out to Joe to see if it's something that he would be willing to go and meet with the treasurer that resigned to see if we could get that fund transferred over, because he is a board member. I don't see anything in the bylaws stating that, you know, we can't vote on appointing him as the treasurer. You know, again, you know, I would like to sit down with Mr. Rua and kind of go over this just to see where the city stands.
Okay, so I think that should be our next step. I mean, does the council agree that we obviously have to engage with our city attorney? If this board does not have an answer for, I mean, where do we go?
I think it's, if I can, I think if we discuss that, I think it's important to get more people on there and get more involved. I agree, the LDC is important for our community development. I think it's at a point that we need to build up our downtown and our main street and our city as a whole. Just some of my questions and just recalling what was talked about. The members that did resign, did that correspond with the term limits that they were actually serving?
Well, there are term limits as well, but if you read their resignation letters, I mean, technically, yes, they should have, but their Their letters to us had nothing to do with their terms,
I-
right?
And I wasn't insinuating that it was, I'm just wondering, perhaps the purpose of the term limits is to rotate bodies in there.
Correct, and that's exactly why they put that in there.
And I'm just questioning, just remembering, one, I know there was term limits on that. Were there terms up as well, and should that have been something that had been addressed to bring in some more people to take over those terms? And if I recall, looking at it too, because I remember you sent it to me, isn't there a term limit for the council liaison? Is that not something that's supposed to be reappointed on a yearly basis?
It is not,
It is not.
no, it's
That's
based,
in rules of order.
correct.
But regardless if there were term limits or not, we have 3 board members who were interested in serving, who now have backed out. And there was supposed to be a swearing in ceremony or something.
There was on the 27th. When we received the letters from the 3 board members and the 1 liaison that was on there.
State reports. It's posted.
Well, thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, if you could work with our council liaison, I'm sure you want to get up. I have your hand in there. So.
Thank you, Madam President. Just real quickly, the LDC, it's a private, separate legal entity. It's a corporation. And again, once we've given them the money, we just can't retract it. So it's not a question of we can go back and get our money back. We can stop future distributions. We can ask for an accounting of how our money is spent, but we can't just go back and grab it at this point. As far as the bylaws, I'd be happy to review them with Dawn. However, again, we have no control over that corporation. They are separate from the city. They make their own bylaws, like any other corporation. Okay, so it's not our position to dictate anything to the LDC. Again, if we want to make suggestions or ask for direction, give them some direction of what we'd like to see done, we can do that, but they're independent from us. And that was the whole purpose of setting up a local development corporation rather than the Main Street program. The Main Street program, we controlled. It was our grant, it was our money, we controlled everything. We made this corporation separate from us. And that's why they've got their own taxpayer identification number. They're a 503A corporation. They have their own board members, and they follow their own bylaws and rules and regulations. So although we can review them, we can't change them.
Right.
We can't interpret them for them. They have to do that themselves. So the board would have to revise their bylaws if they're incorrect.
Right.
Be happy to review them. And again, we can make some recommendations to them, but they're not bound by anything that the city does.
But I also think, you know, no one sitting up here wants to see the LDC fold or disband. So, I mean, if we can put a plea out to the community, if you're interested in joining the LDC, there is a application process. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but I would refer to our council liaison on how they become involved in this.
Are there prerequisites?
But, you know, as the mayor said, we have to have a background, right?
Right, so on the website, I don't know if I brought it or not. So if you go to, again, one of the problems that they were having was they were trying to get a post or actually a web page up. Because currently everything is still under the Main Street. So if you Google, you know, Main Street program for Tonawanda, that pops up. So on that particular site, there is an application that you can go on, you can print out, and you can send it, you can email it to us. I believe the emails currently go to Mr. Knight, I think.
Go to who?
Mr. Knight.
Okay.
But if you want to fill the application out, you want to print it, you want to email it, you're more than welcome to email it to me. I'll pass it on to the board members that are currently there. But we, you know, get together, we need to figure out where we move forward.
Anyone have any?
I know,
Stopping the town council from moving with basic consultant. Correct, Mr. Rule? can invite us tonight into an upcoming council meeting.
Sure you can.
Mhm.
That's no prohibition.
So John, can you,
Yep.
can you reach out to him?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, so if you want to go to tonawanda mainstreet.org, that's where you'll find the application. And it does have on there, you know, your employer, your residents, just kind of like a breakdown, what you've done for organizations in the city as well, your education. I mean, it's just all on there. I mean, which is great.
What size is the usual board?
Well, we can't be any more, according to, again, the bylaws, no more than 15. So they like to keep it,
So, just so I get this
Yep.
straight in my head. Is the board the entire committee or are there committee members as well?
the board is the board, and then there would be committee members after that.
So you can have 15 as a board
Correct,
and
And
then
then you can-
additional XYZ of members.
correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, I think I'm done.
Mr. Armstrong?
I'm holding us up too much. There's a couple things I just want to bring up. Couple notes back now. I think I spoke to the Adam Street sign issue, plumbing inspector. Just in regards to the plumbing inspector, do we want to put a directive to civil service to put a new canvas out or a new test out? It seems like the change in law could be an extended period of time. And I feel like it is something that is important enough to have here. To have somebody filling that position here, especially as we have more progress, people moving into the city, people investing into our city and different businesses. And does that come from us? Is that a direct thing that we just put out there? Are we in agreement on that? Is we're gonna put out a request for a new test, new canvas?
Yeah, I'm totally on board.
Well, I mean, yes, I feel we probably should give a little bit of time just to maybe receive some answers about where this might go first.
Sure, but it was my understanding from that email too, that we could appoint somebody in an interim position.
Yeah.
We could find someone.
Well, if we all learn something about local government, you know, that they're,
Well,
the
nothing's
state
quick.
government, you
That's
know,
for
they're,
sure.
the money's budgeted. I support the civil service recommendation. Mr. Costa, can you pull the council? That we agree that, the civil service, publishes the plumbing inspector test and the council, and also canvases, counties and any other, able applicants, and the council discusses, a possible provisional appointment.
For plumbing inspector.
Correct.
Newman,
I will say yes, because I don't think it's gonna be enough time between exam notification anyway, that we're gonna get some answers anyhow. So, yeah.
Cameron Henner,
Yes,
Rautenstrau,
Yes,
Mylum,
Yes,
Cook,
Out. There you go. Will you let Maria know?
yes, I will. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up in regards to this too, I brought it up when the senior committee spoke to us and gave us a presentation. A company that I spoke to when I first started on the council, but due to COVID, we had passed, some things were kind of pushed back. But I talked to a couple members of a group called Hearts and Hands. They provide, a lot of services, not only to seniors, but, anybody that needs some help, anybody with any kind of disabilities that could use their assistance. It's a small company. It's organized by a couple of people. Their whole idea is to recruit volunteers and then put those volunteers in place to help. One of their main things is providing rides to people. I think it would be a great supplement to what we have with the van service here from the county. They can get out there, they can recruit people. They've done a great job in some other parts of our city in the north towns. They've been currently working with, I think, Salem Church and another church in the area. And they would like to get some more participants. And it's not only the driving, they do some respite services where they'll come out and hang out with somebody. Somebody that's living alone or doesn't have the company and just wants to meet up for a cup of coffee or meet up for a meal and, not sit by themselves to have that meal is one of the services they provide. And in addition to that is some, at the most limited, a handyman type service as well. If somebody needs a curtain hung or something fixed around their house, or that they have some people that would provide that too. The biggest hurdle and the biggest challenge to that is always going to be bringing in the volunteers for it, because there's always a great need for people that could use these services. But I'd like to bring them in to kind of speak more about it at the next meeting. I was kind of hoping to maybe bring him in now, but things got a little bit busy. But they're available for this meeting and the next meeting. So if it pleases everybody, I'd like to bring them in here to maybe speak more about it. And find a way that we can commit to help. I think with the talk about opening the senior center, other services that we've done around here over the years, from cleanup projects to cleaning up the cemetery, I think there's a lot of people in our area that are looking to help out our residents and looking to serve and volunteer. And I think we should continue to welcome that. I think a lot of people mentioned with the senior committee that they'd like to step up and help out. And I think that'd be a great place to start. I think even from the point of some of the seniors helping seniors would be a great idea and figuring out where it's needed. And I spoke briefly with the mayor's office, Mayor Davis. One of the things that they would be helpful to them is if they had a satellite office or a place to work. And I suggested if we could look into it, given the size of the senior center and what it's being used for, if we could commit a couple 100 feet of space for them to throw a desk in there and triage volunteers and recruit volunteers as well. And I think that would also be a great place to start with the number of people coming in and out, with hopefully progressing into some sort of involvement with the youth as well. Might be able to solve the problem, come up with a solution for where there really is a problem, and get some people together to work on it. So that was just a little bit of background and something after talking to them, I think I'm excited about it. I think they could be a great addition to our city. They can work well with some of the other services that we have here too. And I think we could all rally together and get some people more involved and interested in doing this.
Will they be available on the 18th?
The next meeting? Yes, I think they will. I'll confirm that with them. And bring
How
them
much time? Maybe 15 minutes?
Sure. I'm sure they'll take whatever we have.
Okay. Let's do like 6:30 if that works.
Sure.
Madam President, we also have,
I was just gonna say that. Don't steal my thunder. So on the 18th, we have David Stapleton from David Homes
Gotcha.
coming. Although we don't have a time confirmed. So Jim, if you want to reach out and perhaps let's do 6:15 for him.
yes, Madam President.
Thank you, Jim. And if that doesn't work for him, then perhaps 7:30.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Astor?
That was it. I was just excited for that and to kind of bring that along, and I won't take up time with anything else. Thank you.
Mr. Milo.
I think everything that I had to speak about has already been spoken, so good for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to let everybody know, the Senior Citizen Center will be open starting June 2nd. It'll be open from 10 to 4, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And there'll be more information coming out in the days and weeks leading up to it, but positive stuff in the right direction. So, thank you, Madam President.
All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, I apologize, everybody, that we're a little late. We'll call our formal council meeting to order at 7:36 p.m. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Newman,
Here.
Cameron,
Here,
Rautenstrau,
Here.
Milo,
Here.
Cook.
Here, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with with liberty and justice for all. Please stand. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of light, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, Spirit of justice. We ask your blessings on the people who have been called to lead the community in which we live, work, and play. Help them as leaders to not ask first, how do we fix this, but what do we need to learn? How might we need to change? And to whom do we need to listen? Remind them, because we all forgot from time to time, especially in the noisiness of what passes for political debates today, that they are not only leaders, but also servants, and that it is their responsibility and ours to serve the common good of all. Remind them that no matter where we live, everyone, gay, straight, transgender, black or white, Hispanic or Asian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu or atheist, is our neighbor, our sibling, and that throughout the ages, prophets have called the leaders of the people to respect and protect the least of those among us, our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in body, mind, and spirit, the strangers and immigrants in our midst, those who live on the margins, those who are alone, and those who are forgotten. Grant them and us the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true. May it be so. Amen. Okay, you may be seated. Bid openings as per your agenda. Communications from city officials and correspondents have also been ordered and filed. At this time, we'll now take comments by the public on the resolutions. Council is not going into executive session. We'll now take comments by the public on the resolutions. For those that wish to address the council on the resolutions virtually, there is a spot to raise your hand. Mr. Casso, I do have someone in the gallery here who wishes to address the council on the resolutions.
Okay, Madam President, no one in the gallery on the call is looking to make any comments at this time.
Okay, I'm just going to turn it over to this gentleman here.
How do, Madam President? My name is Matt Kent, Director of the New York Foundation for Fair Contracting. I was coming to just offer some brief comments on Resolution 8. I understand there's later consideration of that. We'll try to keep things brief. I know everyone's time here is valuable. The Foundation for Fair Contracting, before showing up in your inbox, is out of the blue, unannounced. We are a 10-year-old organization based out of Western New York, originally founded as the Western New York Foundation for Fair Contracting. We are a nonprofit that polices the public construction marketplace for the benefit of taxpayers, workers, responsible contractors, and government bodies. We operate in a see something, say something capacity. When something seems amiss, we do our best to alert public officials as to those issues. We have engaged collaboratively with public bodies across Western New York, helping Erie County and Niagara County develop and reform their responsible bidder laws. The city of Buffalo to improve and reform its apprenticeship law. The Hamburg Industrial Development Agency to revise its local labor policy. Same with the city of Dunkirk and their responsible bidder law. We have police non-responsible contractors in our communities who have done everything from imitate service disabled veteran-owned small businesses to steal tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars from their workers in wage theft. This is one of the things that brought us today when we saw a low bid in the city of Tonawanda by National Water Main Cleaning Company. I will do my able best to just share a little bit of our understanding with them very quickly over the course of the last decade. In 2012, the Massachusetts Attorney General busted them for $1 million settlement on the basis of wage violations. That is both penalties and back pay. In 2014, a class action lawsuit by workers of the company sued for back pay for failure to pay prevailing wages, which was settled. And the Massachusetts Attorney General, again in 2014, settled with the vendor for 650 grand due to falsified dye tests, overbilling based on weighing down vehicles with water before they were weighed, illegal dumping. In 2018, a separate class of workers in a class action sued for back pay, failure to pay prevailing wage, which was then settled. In 2019, New York City fined them nearly $30,000 for employer misconduct related to worker classification and timesheets. In 2020, a third class action of workers, over 100 workers sued for failure to pay, resulting in a settlement over $1 million paid to those workers. In 2021, where was this? Town of, and I'm blanking, my apologies, and it was included in my documentation shared with you. A low bid by the vendor was rejected by, I'm blanking, Town of Fairport for bid irregularities identified by the town's engineers, which improperly made their bid appear to be much lower than all of their other counterparts. The engineer rejected or encouraged the town to reject the bid, amend the policy or amend the bid, put it back out, which the town board did. National Water Main, and under the new clarified rules, did not participate. Other vendors were awarded. Beyond that, there are just an open boatload of open investigations, both by the New York State Department of Labor, the New York City Office of Controller, related to issues in Westchester County, Oswego County, Rockland County, Erie County, New York City, the town of Cicero, town of West Seneca, the village of Kenmore. Many of those were ones identified by the foundation.
I just want to let you know your 3 minutes is up. So
Appreciate it. That was, thank you.
thank you.
And I know this wasn't on item. Thank you for your indulgence. Happy to engage with anyone should you have questions going forward, be it the engineer or the town attorney or city attorney as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments by the public on the resolutions? Jim, anyone virtually wishing to address the council on the resolutions?
Madam President, at this time, no one in the virtual meeting is indicating any questions on the resolutions.
Then hearing none, let's roll.
Resolution number 1 by Councilmember Newman.
We have a second.
I'll take it, Madam President.
Second by Mr. Mylum.
Resolved that the common council minutes from April 20th, 2021 be accepted as filed.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 2 by Councilmember Mylum.
We have a second.
I'll second it, Madam President.
Second by Ms. Cameron.
Whereas a special events application was received by the city clerk from Tom Barafato to conduct the 6th annual Ted Reinhardt Drum Day from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on August 8th, 2021. And whereas the application was reviewed and commented on by all appropriate department heads to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents. And whereas all details of the above named event must be coordinated with Captain Frederick Foles of the Police Department and the Department of Public Works Superintendent Joseph Worthling and the event chairperson. Now therefore be resolved that permission is granted to Thomas Barafato to hold the Ted Reinhardt Drum Day on August 8th, 2021, and that a certificate of insurance naming the city of Tonawanda as additionally insured is filed with the city clerk no later than August 1st, 2021.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 3. By Councilmember Rautenstrau.
We have a second?
I'll second, Madam President.
Second by Mr. Newman.
Whereas a special events application was received by the city clerk from Thomas Barafato to conduct slow spokes bike rides on June 2nd, 2021 and September 1st, 2021 from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And whereas the application was reviewed and commented on by all appropriate department heads to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents, and whereas all details of the above named event must be coordinated with Captain Frederick Foles of the Police Department and the Department of Public Works Superintendent Joe Worthling and the event chairperson. Now therefore be resolved that permission is granted to Thomas Barafato to hold slow pokes bike rides on June 2nd, 2021 and September 1st, 2021. And be it further resolved that a certificate of insurance naming the city of Tonawanda as additionally insured is filed with the city clerk no later than May 28th, 2021.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 4 by the council, seconded by the council. Whereas the mayor, whereas Mayor,
I'd like to make a motion to waive this reading. For a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mylum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Comments or questions on resolution 4? Comment. This resolution authorizes the city to enter an agreement with Pyramid Brokerage for 1 year. I'd like to thank Pyramid Brokerage for coming to meet with us today to talk about all the improvements that we are making to Spalding Commerce Park. And I look forward to more development there. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 5 was by Council President Cook, made a motion to table, seconded by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
Please call the roll to table resolution 5.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution tabled.
Resolution number 6 by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
I'll second.
Whereas in order to make a more efficient use of city employees' time and city resources, it is necessary to consolidate and streamline the city's request for proposals, RFP process. And whereas by establishing this policy, the Common Council will be able to evaluate the effectiveness or usefulness of the proposed projects, prioritize projects, and better control the expenditure of city funds. And whereas such a policy will enable the Common Council to assure that city resources are being used for the most productive projects that will benefit the city of Tonawanda residents. And whereas having knowledge of all requests for proposals, RFPs, will also enhance the city council's ability to control city expenditures and fulfill their budget responsibilities under the city charter. Now therefore be resolved that upon the adoption of this resolution, all requests for proposals, RFPs, which are to be issued on behalf of the city of Tonawanda must be reviewed and approved by the Common Council prior to being issued to vendors and the general public. And be it further resolved that any responses received pursuant to a request for proposal which has not been authorized by the Common Council prior to being issued will not be formally considered by the Common Council.
Comments or questions?
Comment?
Comment, Mr. Newman?
We talked about this a little bit in the pre-meeting. I just believe that this resolution could use some work, some of the language in it. And I also believe that this does contradict our policy that's already in place. That's all, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Comment, I think it's important that the council stands united on this resolution. Well, I absolutely agree with the procurement policy. I believe that our council is committed to reviewing that and putting forth a resolution for our next meeting that would also address that as well. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Nay.
Cameron,
Yes.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 7 by Council President Cook.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Madam President.
Second by Mrs. Cameron. Before you read that, this resolution is, there's a proposal to amend it. And it's $7,016 from our computer line, which is 1620-0203. Mr. Casso, you got that correct?
I have that changed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, whereas the city of Tonawanda is required to upgrade its IT infrastructure, and whereas the city of Tonawanda has received a proposal in the amount of $7,016, and whereas it is the city of Tonawanda's best interest to upgrade the IT server as recommended by the city attorney. Now, therefore, now be it resolved that the Common Council authorizes the spend of $7,016 to upgrade the IT infrastructure, and be it further resolved that the Common Council directs the mayor to sign the agreement with the server for the server upgrade. Funding fiscal impact $7,016 from account 1620-0203 computer equipment.
Comments or questions?
Madam President?
Mr. Rountree?
Again, I just want to reiterate, I believe in the importance of this. I think this is something that needs to be taken care of. I just still am not in agreement with doing it this year with this budget where it hasn't been budgeted for. I don't think the perceived urgency of the situation justifies the spend out of a contingency budget that we didn't plan for.
Any other comments or questions? Comment. I do believe in the urgency of this. The council received a memo back in November of 2020. The city is not in compliance, and I don't want to be sitting up here as receiving fines for not being in compliance. I think this addresses it. It's something that we need to do, and it's certainly a need for us to get this done and upgrade our infrastructure, and I ask that the council consider supporting this. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 8 by Council President Cook made a motion to table, seconded by Council Member Newman.
Please call the roll to table the resolution.
Newman,
Aye.
Cameron,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye. Declare the resolution tabled. At this time, time, we'll now take comments by the public following the resolution. For those that are joining us virtually, there is a spot for you to raise your hand. Please do so at this time. And if anyone in the gallery wishes to address the council, please speak. Okay. Mr. Costa, no one in the gallery wishes to address the council following the resolutions. Do you have anyone virtually that wishes to address the council?
Madam President, at this time, I do not show anyone in the virtual meeting indicating they'd like to make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Hearing none, Ms. Cameron.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, I don't want to take anything away from you as far as the LVC goes. I know that you put in a ton of time moving that in the direction that it is, right? Your assistant, that's all I have to say. I don't want to hold grudges. I work with you guys every day. My heart is on my sleeve, and we just need to do something to put this in the right direction. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Cameron. Mr. Rounstrap.
Just to reiterate what I mentioned earlier in regards to Hearts and Hands, I look forward to bringing them here next week. Look forward to spreading the word about it a little bit more and just kind of put a request out there for people who are interested that could be available to help out and tune in next meeting to see what we can do to do a little more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rounstrap. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start off by saying the month of May is Lupus Awareness Month. I would like to thank Mayor Davis for agreeing to light City Hall for at least half of the month in purple. For those who do not know a lot about lupus, my wife does suffer from it, so it is, dear to my heart. Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease where one's own immune system attacks its own organs. 70% of lupus patients are considered disabled. 90% of lupus patients are women. And it takes about 5 to 7 years for a diagnosis. So it can be a long, painful road for most patients. So I encourage people to ask the tough questions with their doctors. And that's all I have on that. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Fire department. I want to give these guys credit. It's been a busy year for these guys. 908 runs this year to date, 6 significant working fires, and that doesn't include mutual aids for other departments. So my hat's off to these guys. It's been a tough year. That's all I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, very quickly, I'd like to thank the police department for taking the extra patrols and setting up the patrols on Rogers Avenue. I was getting many calls about it being a basic raceway, and they have set up regular patrols, so I'd like to thank them for that. And secondly, it is Teacher Appreciation Week. I come from a very long line of teachers, so I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize all the teachers out there, everybody in the lives of kids that work in schools, not just the teachers, and thank them for everything that they've done, especially in this last year where everybody got turned on their ear and basically overnight. And I guess I have to say to the parents, thank you, because you were all kind of granted teacher abilities this year, and being held responsible for all the kids that were learning at home. So it's not just the people in the buildings, it's everybody that gets the kids there, and the parents that took care of them during this last year. So thank you for everything that you've done. That's all I have.
Thanks, Marlon.
Thank you, Madam President. As Mr. Newman alluded to with our fire department, I'd like to thank them for, there was one huge fire last week and another fire that occurred down the street from me last week as well. Thank them, the police, for showing up, for working hard to knock both of those fires down. One of them, presented its own challenges, and I'm not gonna get into specifics, but, you know, they did a great job, on that home, and, I'd just like to give a shout out to my neighbor who took in the daughter, of, the resident of one of the homes that caught on fire, took her in while, she dealt with the police and fire departments and assessing what was going on, so. Gilberto's for assisting and taking in a little girl during, which I'm sure was a pretty scary time in her life. So again, my hats off to the fire department. If you get a chance, drive by the closed section of Young Street started the Empire State Development, $2.5 million grant we received from the state over there. From driving by, they have the laptop all hooked up and driving pilings down for the outdoor pavilion, so check it out. And as Mr. Newman also collaborated, the end of the month, we'll have City Hall purple for Lucas, but for the first 2 weeks, City Hall will lit up for brain tumor awareness month. I think it's very fitting with some events to do that. And also lost a few city residents to this this ailment, as well as our police chief. So thoughts and prayers go out to all the families, and science has progressed greatly in this field, and we hope that science will continue to progress, and hopefully we'll make damage from this in the future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So business first, the mayor and I received an email from our engineer's office, and you have to read this, it's a requirement. As the city prepares an annual MS4 stormwater report that is sent to the New York State DEC at the end of May, a draft copy is available for public review. And I'm reading the following statement. The City of Tonawonda's municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4, draft annual report for the period of March 2020 through March 2021 is available for public review and comment until Wednesday, May 26, 2021. The report and public comment form can be found on the city's stormwater webpage at tonawanda.city.com/residents/engineering/stormwater. It's great to see my colleagues, see our neighbors back at City Hall. I want to thank everyone who's joined us virtually as well. As we continue to muster through our pandemic year, we will be meeting back at City Hall, but understand this is a fluid situation, so at any point we may be back virtual. I hope we don't get to that, but thank you everyone for coming out. As Dave mentioned, it was National Teachers Week. It's also National Nurses Week. So I want to give a shout out to all our nurses who show up every single day, take care of loved ones. During the pandemic, every single day showed up for work, even during challenging times. So I wish all of our nurses a happy Nurses Week. As the mayor mentioned, May is Brain Tumor Awareness Month. And just a week ago, I lost a dear family friend to glioblastoma, which is brain cancer. She leaves behind her husband and 6 kids. She battled brain cancer for over 5 years. She defied all odds. She's given 13 months. She was able to see her youngest son, who's now 5, grow up to a degree. She was a City of Tonawanda high school graduate. I've known the family for almost my entire life. She's like an older sister to me. She is deeply missed. And it is very fitting that her services will be next week during Brain Tumor Awareness Month, where I just ask that everybody pause and think of our residents in our community who are battling this very aggressive form of cancer, and reach out to the family and see if there is anything that you can do to support and love them during this very challenging time. And to that, I served on the council when Kim was first diagnosed, and the community, their support, their love, their prayers has been amazing, and that's, you know, an understatement. Our city Tonawanda Police offered resources to the family after she was first diagnosed. We've been very blessed to hear from strangers from all over our country and just offering prayers to this beautiful family. And as the mayor mentioned, we lost our former police chief to glioblastoma. We have residents in our community who are battling brain cancer, and certainly I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all the love and support that you've given, and how fitting that we'll be lighting up City Hall purple for Lupus Month, and as well as Brain Tumor Awareness Month. I got through it. I didn't think I was gonna get through it, but I did. Moving on, when the guidance comes through relative to the stimulus package, that the city is set to receive 1.62 million, that's the latest report, but we're still waiting for the guidelines. I certainly, I mentioned it at a previous meeting, and I'm gonna stand by it, but the council and mayor will have to work together on how we allocate those funds, and we certainly have to say in how we spend that money, and we have to be very mindful of our residents and the people that we serve. So I look forward to those guidelines coming relatively soon. So yeah, we can continue to make progress here. Sitting in our gallery is our deputy city attorney, whose grandmother celebrated a very special birthday, who's also a resident in our city. And I just want to publicly give a happy belated birthday to Jean Pemberthy. She's 101 years young. She lived in the city her entire life, correct? Almost her entire life? Okay. But may she have many, many more. And we put a post out on Facebook, and it was so great just to see all those in the community who wished her happy birthday. I'm sure our deputy city attorney spent some time reading all those well wishes to her. So please send your grandma our best. For those that don't know, this Friday, the Tonawanda Warriors are going to take on North Tonawanda and TNT. So just want to give a plug to our Warriors and wish them all the best. I know we talked about the resignations of the LDC, and I just want to comment on it. I'm saddened to hear that we've had resignations from our development corporation, whatever the reasons may be. I'm not going down that path. However, they're respected members of our community, and I want to thank them for their service. I certainly hope that while we break this ship, they consider coming back, because they were a value to the corporation and they were a value to our community. But for those that witnessed this, we had a very heated discussion about it, and I understand that we're all very passionate about this topic and the money that and the resources and the time and that we put into seeing our LDC thrive. I understand that. I was on the council back in 2015 when we were rolling out the LDC. At the time, it was under a different name and the name escapes me, but what I can't have here at these council meetings is for discussions that involve city business escalate to a degree where there is disrespect to members of this council. We have to get to a point where we can have a civil conversation about topics where we're not blowing our top. It's a respect. And we got to get to that point. I can't tolerate anyone disrespecting members of this council. We say it time and time again. Yes, we receive a paycheck. We do what we do because we have a vested interest in our community. And we have a vested interest in the progress that we see in our community. We have a vested interest in our neighbors and serving our community. That's why we took an oath of office. But I will not tolerate these council meetings because they are our council meetings and they serve a purpose coming to these council meetings and addressing the community and addressing the public. But when there are topics of interest, we have to get to a point where we can have a civil discussion. So moving forward, I ask that we get to that point. And we absolutely need to right this ship. No one sitting up here wants to see the LDC, a development corporation, that in the past 2 years, we've funded $9,000 sink. Those are taxpayer dollars. We believe in this corporation. We believe in the mission. And we have to get to a point where we have a strong membership that is, again, community driven, government supported. That's all I have. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Madam President.
Second by Ms. Cameron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great night, everybody.
For those on the Zoom call, we'll be ending the virtual call at this time. Thank you very much for spending the evening on the call. It's been a couple weeks.
Oh,